Hello, everyone. Today I'm here to talk to you about what Gwyn ap Nuith says about dealing with change, transition, changes to your life's path that you didn't anticipate, changes to your life's path that are difficult. I thought it was probably a good time of year to talk about it, considering that we're at the calendar changing of the year. We've just had the old turning of the year in solstice and the beginning of the new year. We're coming up to the end of the year of the snake, and the year of the horse is coming in the astrological new year. And so I thought it was a really good time to talk to you about Gwyn ap Nuith's advice on not just how to deal with rhythmic changes like this, but how to deal with changes on our life's path that may be challenging or that we may not necessarily want to go through. So, this is what Gwyn ap Nuith has to say. Everything is right. You are right. You are traveling through a gateway into the open sea. On the surface, you are the sea. You have a great journey still ahead of you. Go, a great journey to make all these people open their eyes. Every end has a start. Every end, every shift, every end has a start. And then he says, every watershed moment comes with a sloughing of the skin, a sloughing of the skin, sloughing of the skin. Now, as you know, Gwyn ap Nuith says few words, but the words that he chooses to use carry many layers of meaning. So let's look into the words he chose to use, specifically in the last part of that. Every watershed moment comes with a sloughing of the skin. Those words are very particular. They have very particular origins and roots, and they have very particular meanings over the course of our use of them in the English language. So instead of choosing to say shedding your skin, instead of choosing to talk about transitions and changes, he specifically chooses to use the word watershed and sloughing. They're not necessarily Brythonic words, they're actually Old English words and German words. The word watershed is actually quite a modern word. It didn't really started to be used until the 1800s. So these aren't words that Gwyn would have used himself. So the fact he's chosen to use them is him wanting to convey a very specific meaning and a very specific image in our minds. So the word watershed comes from the German and the Old English. It's actually a geological term, which is very interesting because that carries a lot of imagery with it. A watershed in geological terms is a rise or a mass in the land that causes water to have to divert its flow. So that's key because he just told us we were the sea. He's creating an image that our soul's path, our flow, our illuminated path, our true path of our soul's mission is like water flowing. Then he tells us that every change is a watershed moment. So every change that we encounter is like a rise in the land that creates an obstacle for this flow. Now, the term watershed in geological terms is really, really specific to how the water traverses that obstacle. So in a watershed, the rise in the land is such that the water, the flow, can only split to flow around the rise in the land, or it runs over it like water running from a hill down to find a new natural path, natural flow. So Gwyn has chosen to use a word that creates an image in our minds of a flow of water finding its natural path, even when it encounters obstacles, by either flowing around the rise in the land or down over it and engaging with it and finding a new natural path. Now, this is interesting because he doesn't say whether going around it and taking the easy route or flowing over it and taking the more difficult route is better or worse. Because the water, at the end of its watershed moment, finds its natural rhythm again anyway, regardless of how it's chosen to deal with this obstacle. And I think that's really important that he chooses to use that word and what it represents. He then chooses to use the word sloughing. Now, this is an Old English word. Originally, the word slough was an area that, or a road, a path again, implying a journey, that was deeply mudded, so that it was impassable. A slough can also be used to represent a swamp, or even a quagmire, which implies that it's so boggy that you would get caught up in it. And again, I think that choice of the word slough and sloughing is really important. He's chosen to use that word very specifically. So our natural flow of our life has hit an immovable obstacle that we either have to go around or over and through to find our natural flow again. Then he talks about a sloughing of the skin. Every watershed, every change comes with a sloughing of the skin. So sloughing in the Middle English originally meant to slip over or get bogged down and stuck in this quagmire of the slough. But then it moved on later to be used to mean a conscious act to remove this blockage, this slough. But it wasn't something that happened naturally. It was a deliberate act to make a path through this muddy road or this quagmire or swamp. So and interestingly as well, the word shed in watershed in Old English means to let go, which is very interesting as well. So the sloughing of the skin, the image that Gwyn is conjuring up is this heavy, muddy, thick blockage in a path, in a journey, in a road specifically that you cannot pass through, much like the watershed, the rise in the land. And later in its use, sloughing, it literally came to mean to let go. So what Gwyn is saying when he says every watershed moment comes with a sloughing of the skin is he's using the word he chooses to use are a deep analogy for a conscious letting go of that which bogs us down or seems impassable, and just letting the natural flow of your life find its course again, not by holding on, not by repeatedly doing the same things, our own patterns, but just by letting it go, releasing it, not holding on to it, not even trying to do anything particularly about the problem, because the act of sloughing is simply to consciously do something in order to get through the blockage and let go. It's not a prescribed act. It's not digging. It's not laying logs on top of the mud. It is simply taking a tiny step towards letting go. And so I think even when the blockage that we've come to, the watershed, the impassable change that we've come to, that we can do nothing about ourselves and we mustn't hold on to, even when that is hard, even when space needs to be made in our lives and it's being made by something hard, something heartbreaking, even when that change is being made in a difficult way, the loss of a person, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a job, that to let go of clinging on to the act itself allows the natural flow of our life to find its natural path again, to find its true path. And he says that every end has a start and we are on a journey. So the flow of this water that he uses as an analogy for our soul path has its own way. It will make its own way. It will find the easiest route if you just let go when you meet these changes, even if it's hard, and say, so be it, because it will make the state that enables the start, the shift to happen.